The rhyming scheme may change with the sestet, but the rhyming scheme in the octave remains like this. So this is the difference between Shakespearean and Petrarchan type of sonnets. He says there is no need to give too much of prominence to death. Death is not at all powerful. It is a slave, it is not a master. Here is John Donne, who has tried to explain death is not so powerful, death is not so fearful. It is part of life. When something is born, it has to die a day. Hello students, I am Anil, Assistant Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. Today we are going to see the poem Death Be Not Proud, prescribed by the University of Mysuru for the students of 2nd Sem B.Ba. In this session, we are going to see about the poet, the theme of the poem, the summary of the poem, and new words in the poem. About the poet, this is John Donne. John Donne, he is an English poet, a scholar, and he was a soldier too. In his poems, we see abrupt openings and various paradoxes, ironies, and idea of true religion, what true religion is. And the poem abruptly opens. Then, he is famous for his metaphysical poems. What is this metaphysical poetry? So, metaphysical poetry is poems written on things which we cannot touch, see. It can only be felt, like the softwares. So, he goes beyond the human imagination. For example, the concept of death, the concept of God, the concept of birth, heaven, hell, these we can only imagine. We have not seen it in the physical form. So, he goes beyond these physical things. Meta means beyond something. What is the theme of this poem? The poem, he has personified death, and now death is like a character personified. He has given a form of a person. Now this is death. It has something to do with death. It is a person. John Donne uses the old-fashioned Elizabethan English in his poems and the type of English that is sometimes referred to as Shakespearean English. So the theme is death. So he uses Elizabethan, old-fashioned words, for example, thy, thee, thou, those words, and death, causeth. These type of words are used in this poem. In his poem, Death Be Not Proud, he dwells on the subject of death and how to overcome it. In this poem, he has tried to convince people and make people understand how death should be treated. Death is part of everybody's life, and death is known to everybody, but still we fear. Why? So he has tried to tell people that death is not at all powerful and it has no effect. So therefore, he makes death very weak. Before we go on to the sonnet, this sonnet is of Petrarchan style. You might have heard, you might have read about the sonnets. In sonnets, majorly there are two types. In the previous semester, you studied Shakespearean sonnet. Shakespearean type of sonnet. Shakespearean type of sonnet has quatrains, couplet, 3 quatrains, 1 couplet. And the rhyme scheme is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. And this is an example of Petrarchan type of sonnet. Petrarchan type of sonnet. In this Petrarchan type of sonnet, those 14 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. In Petrarchan type of sonnet, the first 8 lines make a group and they are called octave. 8, octave, octa means 8. Then the second 6 lines, they make sestet. 6 lines. So this Death Be Not Proud is an example for Petrarchan type of sonnet. The rhyme scheme is like this. The first 8 lines, they end with AB, BA, AB, BA. ABBA, ABBA. And the next 6 lines will have CDE, CDE, or CDC, CDC, or CD, E, DC, D. The rhyming scheme may change with the sestet, but the rhyming scheme in the octave remains like this. So this is the difference between Shakespearean and Petrarchan type of sonnets. In Shakespearean sonnet, you will have 3 quatrains, 1 couplet. In this, you have 1 octave and 1 sestet. In Shakespearean sonnet, the rhyme scheme is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. In this, you have ABBA, ABBA, CDC, CDC, or the variations in the sestet. So keeping this in mind, we will continue with the sonnet. He says, from rest and sleep, which but your pictures be. So if you are sleeping, it looks like as if you are dead. So he compares rest and sleep. They are your pictures. Much pleasure, then from you much more must flow. When you are tired, you feel like sleeping. After having a good sleep, your body is again ignited. A new energy comes into your body. You feel, wow. So, when you sleep, you get pleasure. Then, when you are dead, which is compared to a permanent sleep, much more pleasure should come out of you, isn't it? So, he compares 2 things. From rest and sleep, they are your pictures. From sleep, we get energy. Then, by death, which is a permanent sleep, we should get more energy and pleasure. And soonest, our best men with D do go. He says, the good people die very fast, isn't it? Very early in age. And soonest, our best men with you do go. They will come with you very soon. What happens when they are dead? Rest of their bones and soul's delivery. When they die, their bones remain here, but their soul comes out of them. It goes out. It is separated. Then he tells death, you are not a master. You are slave to fate. You are not a master, death. You are a slave. To what? You are a slave to fate. You are a slave to chance. You are a slave to kings and desperate men. Fate, we all know that we believe in fate. Then chances, accidents. People die in accidents. They don't know when they die, but due to some accidents, people die, isn't it? Then kings, they decide, they give punishments, they declare war. It is their decision whether the death should serve or not. Then desperate men, people decide whether they want to die or not. And those with poison, war and sickness, you live. Where do you live? Where is your place? Your place is with poison. Your place is where war happens, and your place is where there is sickness. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well. So these things, poppy, opium, and casting spells, they will make people sleep. They will put people to sleep. So they will also make us to sleep just like you. When somebody is dead, it looks like sleep. So he compares that thing here. He says, poppy and charms also make us sleep, and they are better than your stroke. Their effect is more strong than yours. Then why are you swelling? Then why are you bulging with happiness? Bulging with pride? Why are you swelling with pride? Then he tells something to death. One short sleep past, we wake eternally. Death. He compares death to that of one short sleep. And finally, we wake up. What happens when we wake up? The death shall be no more. When soul is liberated from the body, when the soul is liberated from this cage, the body remains, the soul is liberated. Thus, that death is one short sleep, one simple thing. It happens in a quick second. Somebody dies. Immediately, the soul and body is separated. He compares that to a short sleep. We wake eternally. The soul is free. The soul has come out of body. Now that soul has no death. The soul has no concept of death. Therefore, finally, what happens? Death. You shall die. You will die. Death. The concept of death dies in the end. So he says there is no need to give too much of prominence to death. Death is not at all powerful. It is a slave. It is not a master. The charm and spells, poppy, opium, they give us more pleasure when compared to death. They have more effect. And when sleep gives so much of energy, then death should give us more pleasure. So this is how John Donne compares and makes death very weak. And he says that death is nothing in the end. That death dies in the end. So here, there are some new words for you. Mighty, which means strong. Dreadful, which is fearful. The Elizabethan English, thou is you. Dost, do. Then, canst, can. Thy, your, shalt, shall. So these seem new words to you, but they are old Elizabethan form of English. And some words which mean strong and fearful. These words explain death. John Donne has tried to explain that death should not disturb our day-to-day life. People should not give much prominence to this concept of death. People fear death. When somebody dies, we feel very sad, isn't it? We might have lost people whom we love, and when such things happen, we say that death is too powerful. And here is John Donne, who has tried to explain death is not so powerful, death is not so fearful. It is part of life. When something is born, it has to die a day. So he says death is not at all powerful. Finally, death dies. So having all these concepts in mind, in this sonnet, John Donne has tried to explain the role which is played in the lives of people by death. He explains death is not at all powerful, it is not at all fearful. It looks like sleep. When sleep gives so much of pleasure, then from death we should get more pleasure. And death is a slave to all these things. Fate, chance, king, desperate man. And death lives with war, sickness. And when somebody dies, it's a one-shot sleep. Our best men die very soon. When they die, what happens? Their body and bone remain here, but their souls are freed. Finally, the death dies. So with this, summarizing everything, we will meet in the next class. I hope you have understood this sonnet well. We shall meet in the next class. Thank you.